Hey legends, how you doing? So the topic of this video here, I'm going to talk all things calories, right? So you would have definitely seen some reels that I would have put up and then I talk about calories and calorie deficit and stick to your targets and blah, 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 blah. The problem with that, it's great. They are really good tips, but it's in a short form content and sort of assuming that you know a part of it. So what I thought that we do is we'll do this slightly longer video today and we'll just go through and just talk about what a calorie is, how I work out what your calorie target's going to be as a client, why protein's important, how I work out that target as well, and just so you get a little bit more background in it. So here we go. So when we're talking about calories, what a calorie is to start on off with, it's a unit of measurement for energy. So just the same as you want to know how far it is from here to, you know, the house next door, it's 20 meters. You want to know how much fuel is left in your tank. You look at your gauge on the side of your car, that sort of thing. Any food that you eat is made up of X amount of calories. So the reason why you might see people say, you know, track your calories or how many calories did you have today, it's purely just because it's the unit of measurement that we use to see how much energy is in each food. Everybody's going to have a very different amount of energy that their body is going to be needing and burning and running on throughout a day. So for example, me, who I'm in the gym training 4 or 5 times per week, I'm 26 years old and my height, all that sort of thing, I will need X amount of calories versus someone that's maybe, you know, 15 years old, only trains a couple of times a week and is 60 kilos, will need this many calories. And if you're a female that's a little bit overweight, maybe you're 80 kilos and you're 160 centimeters tall, you would need this amount. So there's a few variables that we take into consideration when it comes to actually assigning you a calorie target. So what those variables are, and there's a calculation that I use for it as well, we take into account your age, your height, your weight, your gender, and that's the first calculation that we do, and that gives us what's called your BMR, which is called your basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate is an estimated guess of how many calories that your body needs to pretty much rest all day. So like literally you laying on bed all day, not moving, not doing anything, not speaking, not raising your hand, laying there all day, how many calories will you need just to keep you alive? So that's your BMR, but obviously we don't lay in our bed all day. I have been a little bit on this trip so far, but we don't usually do that. We're up and moving, we're exercising, we're working, all that sort of thing. So what we then do when we've got your BMR calculation, taking into account all of those factors that we just chatted about before, we can times it by what's called a PAL, or a perceived activity level. So what that means is we're just going to roughly estimate how much exercise and how much you actually move in a day. So depending on what your activity level is, we might multiply your BMR by maybe 1.2 if you're like someone that maybe doesn't work out very much, has got a job that you're sitting down most of the time. If you're a little bit more active, do a couple of workouts per week, we would multiply the BMR by the PL and we'd maybe say it's maybe 1.5. Or if you're a really active person, athletic, playing lots of sport, we get your BMR and we times it probably by about 1.8, and that there will give you your end calorie target. This actually affects it quite a bit. So if you're someone that's wanting to lose weight, my recommendations would be to have your end total and take off about 10 or 15% from that, and that'll give you your end target. If you're someone that's wanting to just maintain your weight, not go up or down, that is the target that you're going to be working off. You don't need to do anything to it. And then if you're someone that wants to gain some weight, you would get your end target and you would probably add maybe about 10 or 15% extra on top of that. As you can see, we've taken into account a lot of different factors and coming up with this end calorie target for you. So now that we've got the calorie target, which we know is so important, the second most important target for you to follow in terms of your nutrition is your protein target. So what my recommendations for finding that, it's much easier, is for every kilo of body weight that you are if you're a male, times it by 1.5, and that will give you your end target. Let me do mine. We've got 83 times 1.5 equals. So my target would be 124 grams of protein per day. So the minimum amount of protein that I need to be eating in a day is that number. But if you're a female, you actually need a little bit less. So what I would be doing is 1.2 grams of protein per 1 kilo of body weight. So a little bit less as your minimum requirement. So that's how I work out the calculations for your calorie targets and a protein target as your coach, or if you're being a client with me. I use the Harris-Benedict formula, which is again taking into account all of those little components that we spoke about, and there's a calculation especially that you dial everything in and you get the number. So that's how I get those calculations. So then from there, what you would be doing is I definitely recommend you downloading an app or a calorie tracking app like MyFitnessPal. There's a few other ones out there as well, and just start dialing in all the foods that you have been eating for a few days and just get into the habit of logging it. This is by no means something that you're going to have to do for a very long period of time. You actually find that probably after the first 3 or 4 weeks of doing it quite religiously, getting in there, tracking everything, making sure, you know, everything's on point, you're working in with your macros, you become way more aware of just what you're eating in general and what you're putting into your body. But then also you start to pick up this skill called eyeballing food, which really just means that I can roughly know that, like, you know, there's 100 calories in that apple, or if I'm having, you know, this much chicken, there's probably going to be about 200 in that. It just becomes like a little bit of a skill that you gradually progress and you know, gain the knowledge over time the more that you use the calorie tracking tools, and this method in particular. By no means do you need to track absolutely everything on every day. It definitely helps, but use this concept and use the tools of those calorie tracking apps just to roughly work out where you are in the day. If you're a little bit over, fucking who cares? If you're a little bit under, who fucking cares? We just want to roughly, you know, just be in that sort of middle part as much as we possibly can. I hope you enjoyed that explanation, guys. Make sure if you would like a program, if you'd like me to work out exactly what calories and protein that you should be aiming for in a day, make sure you head on over to my online platform, sign up there. We'll get you sorted there as a client, and there's loads of different recipes as well. But if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments section. Bloody love your work, and I hope you're having a great day. Thanks so much.